How are you doing? Hi, guys. So we're going to go straight into this topic because it is a deep topic, and I really want to spend more time speaking about this topic. And just a quick introduction. My name is Kathy. I'm from Meekco.Asia, a full-stack digital marketing company, and we're a Shopify expert in Malaysia. So I'll let we start with Manzur, Joel, Patrick, and Choo to start to introduce yourself and your company.
Hi, everybody. My name is Manzur. I'm the Director for Marketing and Customer Experience at Axiata Digital. And we're part of the Axiata Group. And Axiata Digital is also sister concerns with APAC, one of our, I think, co-sponsors here today, as well as Boost Payment Wallet is the largest e-wallet in Malaysia, and ADA, our digital advertising agency.
Hi, I'm Joel, co-founder of ShopBack. So we give cashback when people shop online, and increasingly we're trying to be the biggest pre-shopping app that someone uses before they shop. So I think for travel, people are used to Trivago or Skyscanner, but for shopping, I think people need a pre-shopping app or website that tells them how to shop better and smarter, and we are the biggest ones in Southeast Asia.
Hello everyone, great to be here. So my name is Patrick, I'm Managing Director for Insider in APAC. What we do is we work with our customers to collect user data, use this data to understand what the user is looking for, and then we engage them across all different digital channels. So this can be on Facebook, this can be on the website, in their app, this can be in email channels, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and so on and so on. We work in Malaysia, we work with companies like Media Prima, like DG, like Zalora, Fashion Valley, many others as well, and looking forward to a great panel here today with these amazing people on the panel.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Choo, and I work for Expedia as the Government and Corporate Affairs Senior Director for Asia. So how many of you traveled to be here today? So few. How many of you love to travel? Right, there we go. So that's what we do. We're the world's largest travel platform. Almost $100 billion US worth of bookings last year. More than 200 websites in 75 countries. And we bring people to places where they want to go.
Yeah. So can I have a show of hand, like who's ever heard of the term of the next billion users? Cool, I think I only saw one hand. So like the journey to the next billion users, so who are they really, and where are they? So it's basically an initiative spearheaded by Google. And according to the Next Billion Users book written by Dr. Payal, they consist of almost half the world's population living in the emerging economics. Mainly, they are on mobile, and they are based in places in India, Indonesia, Brazil, and Nigeria. So to this discussion, we will be focusing more on the identifying who are these next billion users, and what do they want as a consumer, and how should we as a modern company should journey our team and a company to quickly capture this market, share in this market. So let's start with what is your definition of the next billion users, and perhaps you can describe or identify this group of people and what is their common behavior, and are they any difference from the already captured market? Yeah.
Well, I think there are some commonalities across countries, right? And probably the biggest common factor is mobile first, mobile ready. So you know that's the only way to reach them. But then what really differs across is literacy rates. So once you've reached them, can you hold them? And for how long? That's the difference.
I think to add on to the point, what we see is that the spending power is slightly different, right, for shopping. So like the things that interest them would be things that are more everyday use case. So for example, they might use it to top up or prepaid phones, things like that. And then it's a progression, right? For them, they're just at this stage whereby they are trying to use the internet for the first time, buying something, and then I think it's a progression. After they use it for prepaid, they could use it for other things. But I think at this stage, it's just trying to get them online, try it for the first time, use a product that they would use anyway, and then that would help them in their journey for e-commerce.
Cool.
I think the next billion users is very interesting, right? Because we saw this a lot over the past couple of years already. And also this morning, I think Patrick mentioned that we are growing from 400 million to now 500 million online users. So that's one year. It's like and it's a 25% increase, which is quite crazy. A lot of these touch points happen on mobile web first. a lot of people are thinking always, oh, I'm just an app-only company, but these people are completely left out if you actually follow that strategy, right? So how does that affect your mobile web experience, your PWAs? So I think the next million users, we need to think about that the fact that they are touching the internet for the first time through a mobile phone, most likely, probably not the most sophisticated mobile phone. And these guys are also not thinking, they don't have the education that we have in terms of what are the different stages of e-commerce. Like I used to use this, I don't know, email, for example. Like maybe email doesn't even matter to these guys anymore because they're simply not familiar with it. So I think considering where they start and what they want to achieve from a simple perspective of what can technology do today and how can I achieve that purpose, rather than asking ourselves, oh, this is what we did in the past and these are all these small incremental improvements on this, but really re-engineering everything and rethinking everything that we do is, I think, what we need to do for these next billion users.
Choo?
When we look at the next billion users for a company like Expedia Group, APAC is a very big of that push. The global travel industry is 1.6 trillion US dollars, out of which about close to 500 billion is from Asia. And Asia is at the forefront of embracing the digital app, mobile phone phenomenon in digital travel. When you look at the number of mobile users there are in APAC, it's 2.7 billion mobile users in 2017, and that's expected to grow to 3.2 billion in 2025. So that would be APAC accounting for about 3/4 of that new growth in mobile users. So it's a very, very promising market. We look at mobile as one M in our strategy. The other two M's, one is machine learning. So we gather about 675 million searches for travel every month, and we take that data of search very, very seriously. Really analyze it. How do we use it to help our customers customize a better journey? How do we help our suppliers kind of plan their revenue and their supply for the rest of the year? So that big data, machine learning, AI is a very integral part of our strategy. And the last M for us is the messaging, because in Asia, everyone, like in this group, while we were preparing for this session, we were all doing it over WhatsApp. But of course, in many countries in Asia, it's different chat apps. So we are working very closely with companies like Line, Kakao, to really deliver the messages and also to be able to enable them to make the booking through chatbots, through the apps themselves. So mobile, machine learning, and of course messaging, three key factors in our strategy.
Oh. So to summarize, the next billion users are also mainly on mobile first and mobile only users. So we need to optimize our website and apps for mobile. It also means that we must consider what it would be like to have internet access via an older or low-end phone, probably like 2G connection, and with unreliable network. So for Choo, this mainly for travel industry. So does this pose as a threat or opportunity to your industry, like Expedia, and what are the steps that required you to do to overcome it?
As Sun Tzu would say, opportunity arises out of chaos, right? So Sun Tzu is out of war. And I think we truly believe in that. There is a very uneven playing field in terms of the mobile landscape here. I think that in terms of speed, in terms of accessibility. So whoever can overcome that problem then is able to leverage the opportunity presented by that. So I think while we, of course, we have a mobile-only strategy. In fact, all the app development that we're doing is really focused on how is it that we can deliver conversion for our mobile users. But we also have to take into account local differences in the way that people use their mobile phone, the kind of equipment that they use, the speed. Just to give you a sense, in our kind of research, we've discovered that if a customer takes more than 4 seconds to load a page, then we lose that customer in terms of conversion. So something we're very cognizant of and something that we take into account when we're developing local strategies.
So for Patrick, I saw that on your platform you have a certain dedicated solution for travel industry. So in terms of like the acquisition, activation, revenue and retention strategy for the MBU, is there any different from the current target users?
So I mean, yeah, we like to use that pirate model of growth, like R, right? Like, of course, if you're looking to acquire customers for the first time and they're not very familiar with your platform, with travel in general, then you need to reach out to them in a different way. So we work with customers like Singapore Airlines, work with Silk Air, with Garuda, and many other airlines as well. But overall, I think in travel, people are going to make the first contact with you on the mobile web, especially the ones that are coming up now. I mentioned this earlier already. And oftentimes I see, and this is not only related to travel, but also for all the others out there, people look at their stats and they see, oh wow, X% of revenue is coming from the app, so I should focus only on the app. Like the rest doesn't really matter anymore. And for those of you who remember, like Myntra followed that strategy, and very shortly after they relaunched their mobile website after they first killed it, because I think mobile web, we don't really need it, we just need the app. But it's the acquisition channel. That's also why the AARR model, or the acquisition, activation, retention, revenue. We need to think about customer life cycles. We need to ask ourselves, how do I acquire this customer for the first time? And then how do I create an experience that keeps this user to come back? That's going back to your point, right? It's not only, I mean, in the e-commerce industry, and my background is also from Zalora, we often see that there's this incredible this addiction to customer acquisition and bringing down customer acquisition cost. And I'm not saying that's the case at Zalora anymore. Back then when I was there, that was the case. But there's this addiction and obsession with customer acquisition, where you just get in the customers and more and more and more. And then what happens to them, I don't know, but more. So we need to ask ourselves, how can we create an experience that is lasting and positive for these users? So ask yourself, like, what do these users need in the beginning to become my first-time customer? But also, how do I follow up? If we're talking about the next billion users, then I can pretend, as I mentioned earlier, sending an email is maybe not the right move. Getting to download the app and communicate through the app, great. Communicating through WhatsApp, now we're getting much closer, because that's how they're communicating right now. In Philippines, we have users who are barely able to operate a browser, but they are very Facebook savvy, so they just operate mostly on Facebook. So how do I communicate with these users on Facebook? We need to look at these next billion users and ask ourselves, how are they currently operating? How are they using the internet? How do they need to be communicated to, so that I can create a seamless experience all the way from first-time acquisition to post-sale service, and also churn reactivation?
That's really in detail. So I'll go to the next one, Joel. So according to the ShopBack Insights 2018, a year review on Australia, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, and Indonesia. So do you have any plans to penetrate into the emerging markets, such as like India, and moving beyond like Android or iOS mobile app, where users have lower storage, low-end phone with poor connectivity?
So I think we're already in some of the emerging markets, for example, Indonesia. And I think for now, our focus is really on Southeast Asia. And as we think about it, as you talk about the different platforms, we actually think about what are the use cases that people use them on. So as I mentioned just now, when we look at all the merchants that we used to push in Australia or in Singapore, these are actually not the merchants that would work well in Indonesia at that point of time, right? Then we try to understand, for these users, what are they currently using? So prepaid is what they're using, and for some, they don't even shop online. So how do we get them on the first time to get rewarded for doing something, right? So then we went even further down. You do have to make a purchase, you do certain surveys, you can get rewarded. Right, so I think as what Patrick said, right, it's like when you acquire a customer, it's less of like, you know, trying to shove everything down and see what sticks, but more of like, what are they currently already doing, and how can we create something that they'll be used to. So if it's surveys, I think it's something that even with a lower end phone, they could do that. They don't have to make a purchase first, and we get them sticky with us. And it's a progression, right? So as their incomes increase, or as middle class grow, then more of them are willing to buy things, and that's where they are already our users, and we can upsell them things, right? So I think that's point one. How to understand based on their purchasing behavior that we are able to build something just for that, right? Don't try to shove down all like high spending products, because that's not something they're going to buy, no matter how much you push. Then the second one is, as you mentioned, how do we create the product that can fit them, right? The mobile app that we're doing, or even the banners, have to be different resolutions where we go there. So the same banner that you know we want to make nice and shiny in Singapore is most probably not going to work there. So it's about ensuring that, you know, it might not be so nice, might be a little pixelated, but it'll be easier for them to load on the phone, right? And once they get used to it, they can use it. Then, you know, over time, we believe that they will get better phones. phones get cheaper, and then it's easier for people to interact with that. But first really is going down to the lowest barrier. How can we ensure that that barrier is the lowest for them to use it? So surveys, even prepaid phones, credit. So these are things that we try to get them engaged before we get them onto our other merchants like Shopee, Lazada, and then as well as as they grow, then travel, things like that. But really, it's just what is the lowest baseline that we can get them onto, and once they're used to it, then it's an upselling game.
Yeah, so I just want to add, do you allocate dedicated resources to invent this new platform, and do you confident in generating the ROI and the revenue on investing these resources?
So I think for us, it's less of that. It's more of teams run differently. So the team in Indonesia will be just in charge of Indonesia, and that's where their core focus is, right? Because if you take some Singaporean guys and put them in Indonesia, the way they run is going to be very different, and I think the Singaporean would fail definitely, right? So it's about how can we ensure that these people understand the market and how the baseline is low and enough for them to use it, just barely enough so they can try it, and then after that, it's really about how can they get them in the door and experience you.
Cool, thank you. So Manzur, we only have 1 minute left. So I've seen that you have quite a lot of experience in some of the most dense populated emerging markets, such as Indonesia and Bangladesh. So in your view, what is the biggest challenge for brands, product, and services who wants to target users in this emerging market?
I think probably the most important thing to understand is you cannot transplant what worked one place into this new market. So it's really about getting some homework done, getting into the market, how to localize yourself. We've seen examples of a lot of large brands that had already been known, and then going into the market early and then allowing time for the locals to come and have very cheap copycats and startups. And that's successful because they're able to connect with the customer. So we need to find a way to connect with that customer, and that's going to help you down the long run to be able to continue with that engagement. Acquisition is actually very easy. They're mobile first. They will look at your app, they'll find interest because they don't have too many other avenues of entertainment. But as soon as they're on board, you've lost them. How do we hold on to them is the biggest challenge to solve.
Okay, so I've got one important last question. It's which industry that you would recommend to just go for it, go to these markets, and which one would you would advise to just put a handbrake and wait for the market to be matured?
In terms of industries, all industries are getting disrupted today and everybody's turning digital. But if you can start with acquisition all the way to fulfillment 100% digitally, dive in right now. You have nothing to lose.
All right, our time is up. So thank you. I hope we covered as much as we wanted to. Thank you, Manzur, Joel, Patrick, and Choo for joining this interesting topic. And thank you for all the preparation. Thank you.
Thank you.